Hey everybody, welcome to the Zenkuda Soul Space. I am Georgia Rose, your psychic astrologer, and hopefully an inspirer of how to use the astrology and the stars to guide your life. So, welcome to the show. I am here every Monday night at 7 o'clock for you on Strong Island Television and also on my own channel website, zenkuda.com. You can always watch replays of the show there. So, each week we come in to the Soul Space. Sometimes we have guests, which month of February, we're going to have a lot of guests, so stay tuned for that. But we come into the Soul Space as a community. You can comment live and you can even call into the show when it's live and talk about anything that's on your mind. If you want a reading spiritually or astrology, or if you just, feel something in the energy and you want to bring a discussion forward. So this week I am being videotaped, taping the show ahead. It is actually Sunday, January 19th. This show is for January 20th. But the reason I am taping it ahead is because I live in the northeast of the United States and we are expecting some really inclement weather. So in case I can't get to the studio, I wanted to be able to give all you guys the weekly Soul Space podcast. So welcome. So this show is going to be about Venus. And especially now, Venus is in the sign of Pisces, which is a very ethereal yet a very powerful energy. And I'm going to talk on today's video about how we can use the placement of Venus right now as a way to really increase and emphasize our power of the law of attraction. Those of you who follow my show and my teachings and my writings on social media know that I feel law of attraction is a really big part of life for us. And if we can master the art of manifesting what we really want and create our life in co-creation with a higher power, it really makes a difference in helping us find our soul purpose and find what really makes us happy and is meaningful in our life. So with Venus in Pisces, the next 2 weeks are really potent up until the beginning of February because Venus is going to join Saturn and also Neptune in that sign, but then it also transits and conjuncts with the north node of the moon, which is relatively new in Pisces and just transgressed on January 12th. So it's a lot of new energy. This is a new phase for Venus, and I'm going to tell you how that's going to manifest in your life. But first, I just want to actually share with you a chart of what this looks like, because I want you to be able to go on to your own charts and see where this is affecting, where this is affecting you in your life and in your chart. So what you want to look for, and you can download a free chart from either astro.com or cafeastrology.com, or there's a lot of sites out there that you can get a free chart. And it's nice to download your chart because we do talk about astrology a lot on the Soul Space podcast and in my other videos. And you can play along that way and really see how this is affecting you in your life. So in this chart, this is what the symbol of Pisces looks like, where my little hand cursor is. It looks like a line with two almost like opposite parentheses going in different directions. It's a symbolization of the fish. Pisces is a water sign swimming in two different directions, but we'll get to that later. And as you can see, wherever this sign is in your chart, it's going to be in a section, like the chart is divided up. It almost looks like when we cut up a pizza pie, right? So the chart is divided, and each one of these sections, there's 12 of them. You can see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each one of those sections is a house in your chart. So wherever this symbol is right now means it's affecting that area, that house of your chart. So in this particular chart, because this is actually a natural zodiac that begins with Aries, it's just showing the 12th house. Pisces normally rules the 12th house in astrology. That's the symbolism of Pisces. That doesn't mean it will rule your 12th house. It might. For instance, I have Pisces in my 3rd house. If you were to look at my chart, this symbol would be down here by the number 3. So get a copy of your chart out or get one online and look and see where this little symbol of the two like parentheses, backwards parentheses type things are with the line joining them is in your chart. That's where you have the sign of Pisces. So Pisces is an energy that shows us where decay is, not necessarily so that things crumble or we will have a sense of loss with Pisces. Obviously, it's decay, but it doesn't do that. It's not the reason for the energy is not to bring us into detriment or deprivation, Pisces shows us where decay is and what's outdated so that we can go into a new perspective, a new way of being. And the next sign in the zodiac from Pisces is Aries, which is a whole brand new, fresh start. So it's pretty cool because as Venus goes through Pisces, it's going to go into Aries, which is all new energy. As a matter of fact, the first thing that Venus does in Pisces is it joins up with the planet Saturn. And when it does that, it goes into a new phase. So let's talk first about the energy of Pisces. So Pisces, as I said, is decay. It is something dissolving. Pisces is a very ethereal. It's water. You can't catch it. You can't hold water in your hand and make it structure and material, right? You need a container to do that. The container that we hold Piscean energy in is our life, our belief system, our values. And Venus is our values. Venus is also the things we want, desire, and love, but that make our life meaningful. That's the higher octave of Venus. When we talk about desires, a lot of times we confuse what we want with what's truly good for us. That's because we're not really in touch with the desire of our soul. We're in touch with the desire of the ego. We want a new car, we want a new dress, or we want that person. We want to obtain something. That's really not what Venus is about. Venus is about the things that we love, how we attract them into our life through our effort and our actions, attraction, how we attract things that we really want in our life. But Venus isn't just about desire and want. Venus is about what's deeply meaningful to us. The highest octave of Venus is how do we attract and how do we relate to things that are deeply meaningful? What is deeply meaningful? What truly makes us happy? And it can be very confusing, our journey to maturation, our maturity that comes when we really understand how Venus works in our lives and how we can be the embodiment of that in our chart. So really look where you also have Venus, which looks like a circle with a little thing on the bottom and a cross. Where's Venus in your natural zodiac chart? Because that's also going to play in here. For instance, for me, Venus is in Virgo. And Pisces is the opposite of Virgo. So for me, all this is happening in opposition to my natural natal Venus, which is very important because it's going to make the energy heightened and emphasized. So let's get back to Pisces and Venus and Pisces. So Pisces is that energy of showing us what is decayed, what's outdated. And oftentimes Pisces does this by dissolving something. And that makes us feel like we're floating. We no longer have the boundary. We no longer have the thing that we thought was tethering us. It's like the balloon that we hold onto with a string, and all of a sudden the balloon bursts, right? We're disillusioned. The illusion that balloon was no longer is, and we're kind of like either just holding onto a string that no longer has a purpose and is out of date, or we're in the illusion flying around with nothing tethering us to reality. When Saturn hits Venus and they're together in the sky in Pisces these next couple of weeks, what happens is Saturn gives structure to our Venus. It's a reality check. It's those things we love and desire, that red balloon that we're got on the string and we're looking up at and we love is suddenly cut loose. And we see that either we really didn't need it to begin with and it was outdated. We were holding on to the illusions or expecting something that really isn't meaningful to us. And Saturn comes in and gives us the structure, the awareness of that, to also bring in the boundary. What really would be meaningful? If the red balloon is no longer what's meaningful to us, what do I need to put there? And where do I need to make an effort to put something there? And a great analogy for this is today in the United States, TikTok disappeared. It dissolved. It was gone. And a lot of people are freaking out. They're out of bounds. They are like floating around like, oh my God, flailing around. Like, what am I going to do without my TikTok? What am I going to do? I've been an influencer on TikTok and now what am I going to do? For the record, I was never on TikTok, never downloaded it. I just didn't really feel it was an energy I wanted to be in for whatever reason, personal to me. But as an example, now all the effort and the time that maybe people put into creating something on TikTok or scrolling aimlessly on TikTok, now that needs to have new effort with the time, because Saturn is also the Lord of time and karma. What can I now do with all that time that I used to utilize in TikTok, which is now dissolved, outdated, floating around in space somewhere? That's really what Saturn in Pisces brings in. Where were we making an effort? what we putting hard work into that really maybe wasn't so meaningful to us, but that we kind of were under an illusion that it was meaningful. And so now, with Saturn reaching Venus in Pisces and them coming together and joining forces, the structure of Saturn, the discipline, the hard work of Saturn meets Venus, what we truly love and what's truly meaningful to us. Now it becomes a time when we can put those two things together, the hard work, the structure, the dream, the imagination, the expectation, together to create a framework that we can work in to manifest that dream, that thing we're really attracted to, the thing we want most, that is truly deeply meaningful to us. And that's the law of attraction. What effort do we need to make in our life that will give a response, attract something that is truly meaningful in what we want? And that's also the essence of Saturn, because Saturn is responsibility. And remember, my definition, and hopefully some of yours, is responsibility means responding to our ability. We have the ability to manifest and dream these beautiful dreams with our imagination, but sometimes we get carried away or we get confused. And the way we get confused is we think manifestation has to do with hard work, and we understand that, and we go into a space where that makes sense. But we overdo it, or we don't understand the real complexity of hard work. And so as a result of that, the hard work kind of dissolves into strife. And a perfect example of this, or a few examples of this, is I'll give you a personal example. I'm a car person. I love cars. And I love fast cars. I love sports cars. I love all kinds of cars. I just love my love of cars and things that go fast, even fast boats and anything. I love that. It's adrenaline rush. I love to ride on the back of my boyfriend's Harley. I love to just be in motion and feel the thrill of that. And it actually is meaningful to me because it makes me feel free. And that originated from my older brother, Michael. Shout out to you. When I was like 6 or 7, my brother's 10 years older than me. And when I was a little girl, he always had hot rods and fast cars and always had like the latest car. He would work very hard to get them when he was a teenager. And he had everything from a GTO in the 60s to, a Jeep before it was fashionable, like a real safari type Jeep and all these things. He was just really great at like making an effort and getting what was at the time valuable to him. And when I was 6 years old, he put me in the front passenger seat of his GTO, and I didn't know anything about what it was or what he was doing. And all of a sudden, he sped down the block, hit the gears, and my little head went back in that seat, and I was hooked on fast cars for the rest of my life. And so I'm a car person. I love cars. And there have been times in my life where I've spent a lot of money on cars. I will sacrifice to drive an expensive car if it's something I want. And that's a material possession, right? Maybe it's meaningful to me in the sense of freedom, or I loved it. There was a time, because in my life, I've gained and lost fortunes, and money is just an exchange to me. I'm not really attached to it. So I've been, on the balls of my butt, no money, and I've been very, very, very wealthy with abundance in my life. And through that, I realized I was kind of still the same person. Nothing really changed within me, whether I had a lot of things or nothing. And so I don't really have an attachment to that. But at one time, when I really didn't have a lot, I would go into debt just to buy the car that I wanted, thinking, oh, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to make an effort. And this is being responsible because I'm paying my car and it's something I want and I'm working really hard for this. But that was an illusion, because what I was really doing was putting myself in strife. The car payment felt heavy. I would drive the car, but worry if anything happened to it. It was creating strife and anxiety, even though it also created some enjoyment. That was a total example of how we confuse effort, hard work, attracting what we want, law of attraction, with what we're really doing is going into the lower octave of Venus and Saturn, and we want something and we're going to put ourselves in strife to get it. That's really not what law of attraction is about, and that's really not what the highest octave of our life is about. Our soul doesn't want us to be in strife. Another example of that would be Food. We have these illusions that if we eat this cupcake, it's good for, what, I really shouldn't eat the cupcake, but I want the cupcake. I want to eat this food. I'm going to overeat because it's going to make me feel better. And then after we eat it, we're in strife because we have the guilt. We're worried about our weight. We feel unhealthy. So a lot of times our attraction to food is a manifestation of we think we need something to support us. There's something in our life that is making us feel like we're not surviving. And so we'll try and support ourselves in a way that ultimately leads to strife. Same with me in the car. I wanted a nice car. I thought having a fancy car made me feel successful. And so I put myself in strife because that was an illusion. Another example is what we do in relationships, right? We stay in a relationship because we have this expectation and we think it's going to happen. Well, maybe if I do this, that, and the other thing, I'll get this expectation from this person and I'll get this rescue that I want in my life and everything's going to be really, really great. When in reality, we're holding ourselves in strife with an expectation that's unlikely to happen unless we make the right effort to improve the relationship. We make the right effort to save the money to buy what we want that's maybe meaningful to us, that doesn't put us in the strife of the finance. We save up the calories if we really want to eat that cupcake, but we make the true effort and we do the hard work and we go to the gym so that we can have that if that's meaningful to us in our life. But it also means placing our energy in the correct use of where things that are truly meaningful to us can be manifested and we can have the true joy and the true happiness. If eating a cupcake makes you joyful for a few minutes, then absolutely do it. But if it leads to strife, then figure out what effort you need to make in order to make that a pure joy and a pure happiness in your life. And that's what we have an opportunity to really do right now in the next 2 weeks, because Saturn and Venus meeting up in Pisces is a combination and energy where we have the ability to come into the awareness of what's outdated, what is decayed, what needs to be dissolved, what is dissolving right before our very eyes is no longer useful. And yet we're holding on to it because of an expectation or a desire or an attachment that will put us in strife. How many of us have clutter in our homes and we're holding on to things that we think in the illusion are valuable, but in reality, they don't work anymore. They're broken or they don't fit. The dress in the closet that we're not going to squeeze into ever again because we're not 35. You know, the blender that doesn't work, but you keep it because you just think it's nice, or it just takes up space in the closet that could be used for a new blender, but you're attached to this. And I can relate to that because I got this really fancy, like, magic bullet blender thing that's a food processor and a blender and all this stuff over Christmas because I really wanted it. And the half-broken Sears Kenmore bought in the early 90s blender is still in my closet because I'm like, oh, but it's my Kenmore 1990s blender. It doesn't even really work. That blender is doing nothing for me. It's really not that meaningful. It's just an illusion of an attachment that blender is going to bring me back to some time when I was a little more innocent, right? It's not. Unpack the new blender, put it on that space, make the effort. So where is it that the dissolution, the disillusionment is occurring right now? And it can be heavy. It can make us a little depressed because Saturn can do that. But it's doing that so that we become into the awareness of, wow, this is dissolving. Maybe it's dissolving a little bit because I really didn't make the effort to do the right thing, and I will tell you my Sears Kenmore blender, the container that we put the liquid in is held together with a piece of electrical tape. So obviously I should have made a little more effort to get a new blender earlier than I did, but I'm just kind of making it a silly story. But on a deeper, more meaningful level, what are the things that you need to let go of? What's dissolving right before your very eyes? For us in the United States, tomorrow's Inauguration Day. I see a lot of things still online. I even had someone who was on one of my social media say, I can't cope with this. I can't do this. I can't have this, this, inauguration, this, what do you call it? This government. And my question would be, well, instead of putting yourself in woe and strife, where do you need to make an effort to make it palatable if that is how you feel? I'm always full of hope and optimism, regardless of the change. I try to go into the higher octave. Don't always succeed, but I really try. So obviously there's good things that are going to come from this. There's good things that have come from every single administration. and bad things too, good things, bad things, that's the world goes around. But just for a little side info, this particular thing that we're talking about in Pisces, Saturn and Venus meeting up in Pisces and also heading towards the North Node and Neptune, is happening in Donald Trump's chart in the seventh and eighth house. So that speaks to relationships dissolving and changing. And we can see that the administration that he's putting together, all new people, people that some of which have never really been in Washington before, very innovative administration. That is indicative of this energy. It's a new phase. Venus is making a new phase to Saturn in Pisces, which is the dissolution of the old, the awareness of what we need to make effort on to become new, where we need to change things and put effort forth that is truly meaningful and brings us joy and happiness, not where we need to make an effort that's going to put us in strife, heartache, deprivation. So with him coming in, whatever your politics are, and I'm not endorsing any political thing, I'm just saying with him coming in this administration, it really speaks to that energy. Let's hope it gets embodied. Let's hope that our leaders, and we'll say a silent meditation and prayer, that all the leaders that are starting a new phase for us in our country tomorrow come in with the embodiment of an energy of joy and happiness and the increase of abundance and the attraction of what's truly meaningful for us on soul levels. What more could we ask for? And so with that happening in his seventh and eighth house, that speaks to relationship is the seventh house, new phases in relationship, coming in and trying to do more meaningful relationships that bring more meaning on a consensus and a constructive level. It also, as it travels forward, goes into his eighth house, which is transformation. It's also truth being revealed, ruled by Scorpio energy, Pluto. That is an energy of things that were once hidden being revealed. So that can obviously go either way. But I also think that one thing this administration is absolutely going to have, being that it's ignited with this energy, is you're going to see a lot of truths be revealed. You're going to see a lot of illusions dispelled. Part of America will go into disillusionment, but it's things that we need to have in our awareness. And it's going to be really interesting to find out what those things are. I mean, I'm curious. My mind automatically goes to space and galactic energy and off-planet energy and Stephen Greer and all of his revelations and where is this going to be leading us in our life and just really, really interesting things like that. And maybe those things will be revealed, I'm sure a lot of other things are going to be revealed too. So bring it back to our own charts and our own lives. Saturn and Venus come together in order to show us an awareness of where our effort would be greater, where our effort can work harder to bring in the law of attraction manifestation of the thing that really will bring us joy and meaning in our life so that we can elevate and go forward in a new phase in our life. And I talk about that a lot on my last few podcasts and videos and in my posts on social media because we are approaching a whole new phase of energy. This is the year that we see disillusion and disillusionment come in. We see the illusions busted up in our own lives and in the globe. And it brings us to awarenesses that now will, in 2026, we have such a clean slate in our lives and in what we manifest. It's really, really beautiful. It's exciting time. Stay in optimism and stay in love for this time. And so that's the first part of this, that Venus and Saturn come in, they come together, they show us this awareness. Venus inspires beauty, art, and love in our life. With Saturn, it gives us the framework to bring that into reality, especially if you're an artist, a content creator like myself, anybody who is looking for inspiration. In this energy, we have the ability to hook into the inspiration and breathe life into it. That will really occur later on in the year, in late spring, when we are able, all these planets and go into the fire sign Aries, and then we're going to really be able to breathe fire into these things that we're looking at and manifesting now. Right now is the undoing. It's the reckoning. It's the energy of where did I not put forth the effort, or where did I put effort in the wrong place? Have I been beating my head against the wall, beating the dead horse in a relationship that isn't going to work? Have I been putting myself in debt to get things that aren't truly meaningful to me? Have I been holding on and allowing things that are decayed and out of date to take up space in my life? The clutter in my house, the clutter in my mind. Have I not been doing what I really truly see is now meaningful to me because of these things that are in the way that should be dissolved and decayed? Venus and Saturn in Pisces gives us the opportunity to release them, let them dissolve, allow the responsibility that we need to take to come forth and bring us to a place that we can really respond to the ability that's meaningful for us. And what do the relationships in your life need to be in order to reflect what you truly want? What are your expectations, and how much of that do your actions and efforts reflect obtaining that? You know, you want a peaceful relationship, but you're fighting it all the time. That's not taking action and making effort to obtain the peaceful relationship. You want to be 10 pounds or 15 pounds thinner, but you're not making the effort to correlate your action with that goal, right? So Saturn gives us the awareness of where the effort needs to be and the discipline to correlate the effort and the action with what we truly want. So we're correlating action and effort with the desire and what we truly have that's meaningful to us that we want with what we actually have to do in our life, whether it's a daily basis or whatever. And what those themes are for you is going to be what house Pisces is going in, what house Pisces is in your chart. Like for me, it's the third house of communication. So I'm really making an effort to communicate what's deeply meaningful to me to you right now through this media and also in my personal relationships. I pause more often now and I choose my words, and I'm trying to speak more and communicate more from the other person's perspective instead of just my perspective. I have a very heavy Sagittarian chart, which is all about deeply meaningful belief systems and finding the true meaning of life, which is mirrored in my work and my actions in the world. And the effort that I bring forth to Zenkuda and creating this platform of what is deeply meaningful. And I want to inspire others to find what's deeply meaningful in their own lives. I don't want to dictate my beliefs to someone. I don't want to influence someone's beliefs. I want to crack open a door that they'll walk through to find their own light and their own belief systems and decorate their own room. You know, your room isn't supposed to look like mine. It's supposed to be yours. And so in this energy, I'm using these transits in my third house to communicate that more soulfully. And I'm trying to bring that forth into all the little nooks and crannies in my life that before I didn't make the effort to do. Merging my real estate career and the abundance and the platform where I'm identified there with what's deeply meaningful to me, and merging this with that. And also in my relationships that sometimes I don't bring my authenticity of what's deeply meaningful to me, being more verbal about that and speaking my truth more, and not in a way of challenge to see, oh, is this person going to respect my truth? But in a way of, this is who I am. Do you think it's cool? Because I think it's really cool. If not, then it's okay. I can still be friends with you, but I know you're not my audience for that. And now I need to make more of an effort to find the audience. So for me, communication means also being communicative, communicating my soul space, but it also means making the effort to truly discern and take responsibility for the audience. Who am I speaking to? How will I be received? And staying in authenticity with that to create more love and expand more joy in my life. And that's the highest octave of Venus. Venus comes in to expand more joy and more love in our life. But if we're not making the effort and taking the responsibility, Saturn, allowing what no longer works to dissolve, what's decayed to let go of and release, Pisces, then these elements won't work. And so that's truly what we're doing now in this energy. And I'd be really interested to see where this is in your charts and what you had to dissolve, what came into your awareness that was no longer really the place where you needed to make effort, and how are you now going to, tend the garden of your life, so to speak, a little bit differently, and where do you need to make more of a personal effort to get what's truly meaningful to you in return? So now we're going to get to Venus and Saturn as they travel along in the little zodiac, right? They're moving, the planets are moving, and they're moving through Pisces. And then Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune is at the final degrees of Pisces, where it will move into Aries in March, the next zone of sign of the zodiac. But before it does, our little Neptune, which is the planet of illusion and connection and meditation and all things spiritual and connecting with source and higher power. That's why Neptune is also known in the ruler of Pisces as the planet of dissolving things and showing us where the decay is, because through decay and death, we go back to source, right? Our source that created us, creation, which is the next sign of the zodiac, which is Aries, all about creation, new phase. So as we finish this work in Pisces, we're being shown and being put into the awareness of what has decayed, what is outdated, what no longer works. And so that's why the disillusionment comes in. And so the releases start to happen. So as Saturn and Venus together, creating what we just discussed, move further into Pisces energy, they're going to hit Neptune. And that planet of Neptune, which is our relationship with absolute meaning, Neptune, the dissolution of boundaries, the becoming unbound, right? We lose everything in our life, or someone very dear to us dissolves or decays or dies or goes away, and we have loss, and we become completely unbound, and we're in this whole psychic drift, right? We don't know what we are. Some people are doing that today over the loss of TikTok, believe it or not. And as crazy as that sounds, but I'm not going to judge. See, I'm human, guys. So we're in this like psychic drift with Neptune. But when Venus hits it, now we return to the source of what's truly meaningful to us, because that's what Venus is. And our relationship to that thing, that source, that relationship, that belief system, that person, that love, that's deeply meaningful to us. Now we're connected through Venus to it. And then Saturn is right there, giving it framework, the boundary, the structure of what it looks like. So we can dream it into being, into form. Saturn is structure, it's form. Venus is what's deeply meaningful to us, and the source of that, right? Spirit, God, connection. And then Neptune comes in to amplify and heighten that connection through Pisces. So although we're becoming disillusioned, the illusions are breaking apart. The red balloon's flying around. We can't get it anymore. We just have this lousy old decayed string. It's broken. But now what's in our imagination, what comes up from the surface is deeply meaningful. We can attach it to a structure, Saturn, and give it life and give it form. And what does it really look like? And then as these planets go even further through Pisces, we hit the north node of the moon with them. And now we have Neptune with the north node, and Venus with the north node, and Saturn with the north node, all in succession. And the north node is true north in our chart. The north node is the embodiment of truly what we desire deeply, most deeply, what's going to bring us the most joy, the most satisfaction, the most alignment with what we came here to do, feel, have in our life. And that doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It doesn't mean you're going to, become a star or a guru, or it means that your life is going to be joyful and you're going to be in alignment with it, whatever that is for you. I oftentimes use the analogy of I love the blueberries in my cereal every morning. I just love them. I think they taste so beautiful and they're delicious and they're making me healthy. And I just every day love my blueberries. It brings my life to a higher level, okay? Who knew? Blueberries, right? So first we're going to be in the disillusionment, the last few days of and now of life is what it is, Life is this. This is what your life is. This is what your life has become. What do you want? What is it that you want? Because this is what your life is. So now where's your responsibility? Where's the effort? What's the responsibility you need to take for what your life is? And where is the effort coming forth? Where's the awareness coming forth that you are suddenly now realizing, wow, I should do things a little differently? Not in shame and guilt and regret, but in, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I see this now. Now I can really move forward and get ready for the time that's going to come this year and in the years to come, that's going to bring me into a new phase of my life and a much more meaningful phase. So we manifest when we put effort into practice. And that's the key of the law of attraction. We have to put effort into practice. Our actions, our effort, our responsibility, Saturn, respond to your ability, with what we want, Venus, what we love and desire and is meaningful to us, Venus, has to correlate and be aligned and melded together with our practices. If you want to be a medium, you want to develop your psychic ability, are you clearing the debris fields out of your life that are preventing that? Are you going into a spiritual practice every day and deeply meditating? Are you really seeing the meaning of life and getting rid of the things that may be an egoic attachment so that you can go into peace and harmony? If you want to be a Reiki master, are you doing those things? If you want to be someone who's inspiring to others, are you living an inspirational life? Or is your life full of garbage and crap and you spend hours a day doing things that aren't meaningful? And I don't mean that in a judgment way. I mean that in a way of bringing the responsibility of your own awareness to your life and really looking at it, going into the dark, going into the illusion, going into the unboundedness of what your life truly will be without these things, right? I'm just thinking of a personal thing I can share in this moment, because for me, becoming unbounded and going into a place where I know it takes effort, but there's meaning, is being vulnerable. And that is the greatest effort we can make, because suppose you want intimacy in your life, you want connection in your life, but you're not allowing vulnerability to come through. You have to practice vulnerability to get that. That's one of the reasons why I do the videos and the postings that I do, because in my own vulnerability, I am putting forth the effort to do what's deeply meaningful in my life. Find the deep meaning of connection. It's all about connection for me. Connection to everything and everybody. Those of you who have taken a walk with me or just spent a day with me know that I will pause and have these deep moments of connection. Why do I do that? Because that's my jam. That's my thing. I like it. That's what makes me feel really, really vibrating, And so that's not for everybody, that's me. That's my way of being. What's your connection? What's your thing? What's your jam? For some people, it's having children. For some people, I don't have children. That was never my jam, For some people, it's mountain climbing. I try to avoid heights, although I made myself face that fear. But again, not doing strife, because putting myself on top of a mountain and looking down would be giving myself strife. I don't need to do that for connection. So what is the thing that's going to give you that hot button, that beautiful feeling? I'm connected to the universe and it's a beautiful place to be, and I couldn't live without this, right? For me, that's connection. For me, that's the connection that comes with vulnerability. So sharing parts of my life, I'm working on that now in a relationship where, I gave up a relationship. And now I'm working on in my other relationships where I'm allowing that vulnerability to come through, right? Like I love fast cars and I love to be on fast machinery because that's a freedom for me. So maybe I'm going to buy my own Harley, right? So maybe I'm going to find speed in a different way. But I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable enough to see where that effort has to be made, because that's something that resonates with me on a spiritual level. It's not about the thing. So maybe being vulnerable for you is just going into the dissolution of whatever is fading for you in your life. And that vulnerability has to happen, because what I can tell you is part of law of attraction is developing a practice, making an effort in whatever it is that you want to manifest. Maybe it is money for you. And that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But it's deeply attached to the way we're living our life and our self-worth, whatever this manifestation, the attraction that you want to bring in is. In order to do that, we have to make effort that we're worth it. That's why the things that are deeply meaningful are so tied to our self-worth, and that's the highest manifestation of Venus. So don't put yourself in strife to get the things that you want and bring in that law of attraction when you are utilizing it Because if you put yourself in strife to get something, even if it's something deeply meaningful to you, like if I worked 20 hours a day at my content or Zenkuda or real estate or whatever, and I worked 20 hours a day at that and made myself sick, that's not putting forth the right effort. Putting forth the right effort aligns with the worth of yourself to have those things and know that you're worth it. So remember that, because a lot of times we get confused and we go into strife. So we have to, through effort and practice and self-responsibility, put forth the action of law of attraction. So don't put yourself in strife. Don't hope and dream. Oh, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I'm hoping. Well, what are you doing to make it happen? Are you networking? Are you making connection? Are you getting rid of the things that take up space that prevent or restrict you from doing it? Because Venus and Saturn right now are in a place where it's a completely new phase of energy. So the more we can put forth to clear out and bring newness into our life and make new effort, the more this is really going to work for us. Just looking down at my notes, I'm sorry. 'Cause I want to conclude. So the North Node is our spiritual alignment. It is something that's meaningful and precious to us. Where we're the thing that we were brought in and ignited. You know, life was breathed into us when we were born for a reason. What was it? We know it through the chart. So I can do this through a reading. If you want a reading, zenkuda.com. But sometimes when we have a sky like this and Saturn is going to reach the North Node, it can get us stuck. It can make us in a rut. And it can make us in a rut either because we can't access our discipline to move forward, or we have so much discipline that we're putting ourselves in rigidity and we're not really getting what we truly want. You know, a perfect example is people who diet too hard and make themselves sick. That's being rigid, right? Or someone who has a very rigid religious belief and they're, you know, flailing or like, you know, I'm sorry, not flailing. Someone has a deep religious belief and they're a martyr and they're miserable, but they're abiding by all of the things that this religious belief tells them they have to do, you know. That's taking Saturn in an extreme rigidity and making ourselves get confused in the discipline of something, and it'll put us in a rut where we can't move out of that energy. And so it's very important to spend time in quiet reflection. Go out in nature, which will ground us in the Piscean energy of source and creation, Aries, where we're headed to. Through nature, we also see the natural cycle of Pisces going into Aries, death, rebirth, Scorpion energy, Pluto, which just went into Aquarius, also in a new phase. This is the culmination, death of rebirth. So where in nature do we see that? We see that yesterday I took a walk and I noticed that the pond by me was iced over and the fish go into hibernation, right? So I always think of that, the fish are down there plotting and planning their new life, what they're going to do when the lake isn't frozen anymore, and they're gathering all their stuff in their little fishy brains to find out what they're going to be doing in the spring when they can have all that beautiful place to be happy, right? A very Piscean thing. They're floating right now. They're kind of like in a psychic drift. They're just, you know, in the dark, right? But then they're going to in spring come out into the light and be beautiful little fishies all over again. Well, that's the cycle of life. And so there are things in nature all around us that show us that, you know. I love to go to the park by my house and feed the deer because I always feel like they need me and they need nourishment in the wintertime. So I'm sustaining the cycle, right? So there are symbolisms all around us in nature. And if we can go into nature and reflect, or go into meditation and reflect, in those reflections, we find where the effort needs to be, and we find the connection and the correlation of our happiness, of our meaning. But first, we have to be in that reflection, in that quiet time in order to find it. So just remember that, and that's why we do the nature moments. So you may feel disillusioned. You may feel unbalanced and unbound in this energy. It's a lot of Piscean energy. You are also going to see out in the consensus and in the world people busting through boundaries, new boundaries being formed. In the United States, they're talking about Greenland and Canada and new boundaries and new countries being in charge of other countries. And so in this effort, you really want to, in this sky, in this energy, you want to make the effort to understand new boundaries for yourself and others, and really observe what's going around you and what the boundaries are. Censorship could be a theme, and also people just running amok. It'll definitely be an exciting day, the January 20th. We have a lot of energy, Mars and Pluto and all kinds of things coming in this inauguration day. Expect surprises. It can go either way. I'm not going to talk about it, but just get rid of whatever doesn't fit. This is about the old way dissolving, the new way coming in, but we have this beautiful energy to go into the law of attraction. My affirmation this week is an affirmation that is a cliche, but if you really, really stop to think about it, it can really, really be powerful. And the affirmation is our thoughts become our life. And that is just a manifestation of the law of attraction. Our thoughts become our life. Our thoughts become our life. I always, before I go into a podcast, I think, what do I really want to say? What's going to be deeply meaningful for me to say? And in that time frame, beforehand, I try and think what I want to say and visualize it being said. Because I know whatever my thought is before I put the camera on is what will be in reality. Saturn is giving us that reality check now. So our thoughts are extremely potent. The things that we think now will become our life. I will tell you that. If you say things and think things like, I can't cope with this administration, or there's no way I'm going to be able to deal with this, well, then that is what will happen. But if you say, okay, maybe this isn't the highest octave of what I really want to see in the world, or maybe this isn't the highest octave of what I want in my personal life, but Spirit, please show me how I can make this palatable, make this an opportunity to expand love and joy in my life, then you're going to get a much different life. And it's that way, bring it down into all of the detail and all of the things in your life that are the minutia from everything. You know, what am I eating? Who am I talking to? What am I listening to? What am I talking about? Where's my mind drifting to? Because those are things we're worshiping. And I talk about that a lot in the podcast and on my videos. My idea of worshiping is whatever your repetitive thoughts are, that you're worshiping that. That's what a repetitive thought is. When we say a mantra over and over again, we are giving power to those words to be made manifest in our life. So if we say a million times a day, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, well, then you're putting hate in your life. Instead, if you say, I'm going to make the best of this, then you're going to get the best in your life. Thoughts are so powerful. So this week, thoughts become our word. Our first week, our affirmation was, I am in control of my life, right? So marry that with my thoughts are my life. Thoughts become your life. I am in control of my life. Our second week, this is the third week of the show this year. Our second 2025 affirmation was, I just forgot it. Just kidding. I know you're all out there. Was respond from a beginner's mind. Respond with a beginner's mind. So appropriate for this energy. We're in new phase, guys. We're in new phase energy. So you are in control of your life. Respond with a beginner's mind. Dump the conditioning. Let go of it. It's dissolving around you anyway. And your thoughts become your life. Great inspiration. So the other thing in this energy as we go into the North Node is to remember that because this energy is approaching the North Node, it's also opposing the South Node. So I like to think of the South Node as our bad habits or the habits that feel really good, that we love, but probably are not the best for us. Like, I love eating breakfast cereal in the morning. I know it's probably not good for me, but I do eat the lowest sugar I can find. But I love doing it. It's not a great habit. There were times in my life when I didn't eat any cereal. I ate protein in the morning for years, and it was great. I felt a lot healthier. So that's something I'm going to work on. It's a little teeny weeny thing. But it shows me an old habit that I'm attached to that I shouldn't be attached to. So what are the little habits in your life that you shouldn't be attached to? One of the ways I shouldn't be attached to is sometimes I can be, believe it or not, negative when I'm surrounded by a lot of stress. And I kind of, I have a lot of Scorpion energy, Pluto energy, and I can dive down into the underworld. And so that's something that I'm going to be watching in 2025 because I don't want to have a lot of darkness in my life. I want to have light. I worship light. And so That's something I'm going to be working on. So I'd love to hear the little things that you're going to be working on. Last year, relationships were a huge theme. That's still in play now. But I do believe that what's a huge theme this year with the nodes going into Pisces and Virgo is going to be spirituality and our spiritual connection. I believe last year the reason why we worked on so many relationships is because we started to work on the relationship with ourself. And this year, our self development, our self relationship, dissolving old boundaries that don't suit us and going into the places where we return to source to co create our boundaries and our new phases and relying on spirit, God, whatever you believe in as your higher power to do that with you. That is absolutely the energy of this year. That is the highest octave of utilization of the energy for 2025. However, the shadow side of that is going into escapism, fantasy, addiction. You're going to see fetishes become a big thing. You're going to see more people really go into AI and media as a way to escape reality. You're going to see addiction become an all-time high. You're also going to see people go into addiction counseling and new ways to handle addictions. Think about what your addiction is. Are you addicted to TV? Are you addicted to exercise? Are you addicted to food, drink, sex, whatever? Those will really come into the awareness this year. Um, are you addicted to arguing? Are you addicted to using, pushing the limits, whatever? That's really going to come into the forefront depending on where Pisces is in your chart. And so as we go through the soul space this year, what I'd like to tie together and have a thread of continuity for us is that self-development and self-mastery and utilizing the energy to come into a space where we find what's joyful and truly meaningful in our life, and we can attach to it and attach our effort and action to it so that we get that, so that it comes back to us tenfold. And a big part of that is, of course, how we have a relationship with ourselves. Because whatever that relationship is, that's what we're bringing into our other relationships. And so, do we talk nicely to ourselves? Do we manifest in ourselves a place where we are nurtured and we are supported and we have ourselves first? Because if we don't, then our relationships will mirror that. Do we respect ourselves? Do we take care of ourselves to be healthy? Do we understand the way we speak about ourselves to others? Do we tell people, "Oh, I'm really not good at that," or I could never do that," or "I always failed at that stuff." Well, then that's how people will see you and relate and act to you. So how do you relate to the self? And that's the work we're going to be doing together in 2025. And I promise that I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable enough to come into a space where I also relate what my own struggles are. And, I come from a childhood with trauma, as we all do in some form or another. And so relationships have been a place in my life where I've had to be brutally honest with myself. Um, I've used my career as a place where sometimes it was an escapism and reaped the rewards of that, but also reaped detriment because of it. And so one of the things that I have to do as I grow the Zenkuda community and grow my content creation and also grow my own other goals in my life is to not use it as a place to escape self-development and self-focus. And hopefully you'll all help me with that. And that's why I recently put up on my Facebook page, I asked for constructive criticism about the show because I want you guys to tell me what you really want to see in this space. What do you need me to hold space for you? And what do you want to bring to this space? In the month of February, my theme is going to be love, which obviously ties in with Valentine's Day, but not just love in our own present reality. But I'm also going to have people on the show each week that bring in their experiences of how they've experienced love from beyond, how the boundaries, Pisces, dissolved, and how the place between worlds has dissolved in order to bring us truly back to source. And as a psychic medium, I've had a lot of those experiences. I'll talk about those in the soul space. And I'm also going to bring on guests who can fully attest to having those times where past loved ones have communicated with them, have come through in symbolism or unexplainable things to truly make manifest the fact that love has no boundaries and really is felt across the realms. I thought that was really, really positive for this energy because we're really in it big in Pisces, and Pisces is dissolving all the boundaries between worlds in our life and between our reality. But Saturn's right there giving us the framework and the structure that we need to have the awareness of how to draw the drawing board, how to get us back to all the love and expand joy in our life. So I hope you've enjoyed this pre-recorded episode of The Soul Space. If you go onto my website, zenkuda.com, you can book a reading with me, whether that's a psychic medium reading, a tarot reading, or work with me with your astrology chart. I also do personal coaching. So you can book an appointment right there, and it will give you your time, your appointment, and a way to pay. So hopefully you'll go on there. You can also go on there for a blog. This show is on there. There's all kinds of great stuff, and will be more and more as the months go by. So I'm here to guide you in the astrology, in what the energy is and what it can be used for in your life. You can also find me on Facebook at Zenkuda Soul Space and on Instagram, Zenkuda Official. Thanks so much, and I will be back here next Monday at 7 o'clock in the Soul Space podcast. Hopefully, it's been a beautiful day this Monday. We've had a beautiful inauguration. Hopefully, any little speed bumps or anything that may have happened is made manifest in peace and joy and compassion for all of us in the world today. And I'm sending you all out the beauty and love. Thank you so much. See you next week.